Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heavyweights Podcast. In one corner, standing at 6'3", 290 pounds of solid chicken wings, Dustin Urban. And this corner at 6'7", 280 pounds, the one, the only, Big Daddy Nick Klein.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Heavyweights Podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick Klein, and joining me always is Dustin Urban. We've actually got a big week this week coming up. The tampering period started yesterday for the NFL, so free agency, technically, the new league year starts tomorrow. But we'll continue this like we always have, and we'll just kick it straight off with the XFL, so take it away, Urban.
Yeah, we got some breaking news here. The coronavirus is taking over the country, and we are all going to die. Oh, never mind. That's meant for next week. My bad. Back to NFL news, Nick.
This week, we were going to do our second mock draft. We decided to hold off on that just because most of this episode will take up almost all of free agency. We're going to go over who's been tendered, transition tagged, franchise tagged. We're going to go over who's signed already or reportedly because the deals can't be finalized until noon tomorrow. And then we're going to go over some trades that have happened. So the first thing I'd like to start off with, though, because of the coronavirus, the COVID-19's taken over a lot of stuff. The NFL came out with a statement a few days ago about the NFL draft. We are no longer going to be holding it in Las Vegas live in front of the fans.
I think we all knew that.
Yeah, I mean, you knew that was coming at some point. I mean, the draft's not until April 23rd through the 25th, though, but it's just going to go back to like it was in the late 80s, early 90s where you see it on TV. So we'll still get the coverage we want. But the official announcement said the decision reflects our foremost priority, the health and safety of all of our fans and citizens. While this outcome is disappointing both to the NFL and to the Las Vegas community, we look forward to partnering with the Raiders, the City of Las Vegas, and the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority for a future NFL draft, as well as evaluating our opportunities for other major NFL events in Las Vegas in the future, including a Super Bowl. Well, of course, they want the Super Bowl there, but it's just weird that like this is actually now it's starting to flood into the off-season programs for the NFL. So, I mean, we're going to have OTAs coming up at the end of May, early June. You got rookie mini camps after the draft. That'll more than likely be affected at some point. We'll see how long this goes on. I know because we have the next 8 weeks, no more gatherings of larger than 50 people. At least the draft can still happen, though. I'm okay with that. It's not the end of the world. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts more on this coronavirus. I know we were on a podcast last week called Bring the Juice to Colts podcast. If any of you out there listening, it's a really good one to listen to. They're on YouTube and on iTunes.
Really cool guys.
Yeah, we were able to go on there last week and we discussed the events of the coronavirus. My only thing is I think the NFL starts at its normal time. It's just I'm really concerned on how this is going to work for the off-season programs for the NFL.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm worried about as well now. I mean, you brought up good points when we were on that podcast earlier this week or last week, but the draft, it's going to be fine. They, like you said, they used to not have everyone come in and be a part of it, but it still sucks, man. Like,
it's going to be affected a little bit with teams not allowing their scouts to fly out or anything right now. They've closed all players are not allowed to come to the facilities to use any of their machines at the doctor's visits. So these pro days won't happen like they're supposed to. I mean, we still have all this technology to relay information, but it might affect the people that are the fringe 6th, 7th round draft picks to undrafted free agents. It'll affect that a little bit, but I think we've gotten enough information from the combine and film. And pro days aren't end all be all.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You got film. The eye in the sky never lies, and they'll be fine. You're going to find the players you need deep in that draft, so it'll be fine.
Right on. Well, let's just jump into it then. Since we're not doing our mock draft, we'll start with the questions of the week.
Yeehaw! Damn about them questions of the week, Travis. You have them questions, then we have them answers. It's time for the questions of the week. Yeah.
Our first question, do you think Tom Brady will go to Tampa Bay or Los Angeles? Well, breaking news, folks. Tom Brady has signed with the Bucs, or he has a deal in place to go to the Bucs, and they're saying it's around $30 million a year. So,
yeah, it'll probably be at least 2 or 3 years, I would assume, just because he wants to play for a little longer. I was surprised that LA didn't push, or Las Vegas didn't push this any harder, but we knew that we had talked about the Chargers multiple times that they were a fit. His biggest thing, I guess, was keeping his family on the East Coast, is what Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport were reporting. I like the LA fit, I think, a little bit better than Tampa, but Tampa still has that 14th overall pick. They can use that in an offensive lineman because Brady's going to need protected no matter what.
Yeah, and he automatically has better weapons than he had in New England.
Oh, I mean, it's not even close there.
I mean, 2 big-bodied receivers that can go get you the ball, and
maybe they'll actually use O.J. Howard a little more for once.
Right, and they got that other tight end. I forget his name too, but he's
great.
Yeah, Brady's not bad. Like, I mean, Brady likes to has really played well in 2 tight end systems over his career. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only question we had this week. It's a down week, I get it. But hopefully, with everybody being almost self-quarantined for the next few weeks, we'll get some more in for next week when we go over a few new things. I know that's our weakest week we've had so far with questions, but hopefully you guys all out there listening send in some more when we send them out. We usually send them out on Wednesday or Thursday, and we record every Tuesday. But let's get into NFL free agency. But first, we're just going to hit up our commercial break real quick.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let us explain.
It's free.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms.
You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Now download the free Anchor app and go to anchor.fm to get started.
And make sure you listen to the Heavyweights Podcast. All right, well, taking a look into the offseason moves here, the NFL free agency. First, we're going to take a look at some franchise tags and transition tags. Some big names got tagged. I'm going to start out with Shaquille Barrett, Bud Dupree, AJ Green. They were all franchise tags. Then you got
Kenyon Drake was the only transition tag this year so far. Which the difference, I don't know if most people know, the transition tag is a team that is allowed to use a transition tag if they are a free agent. They can tag them so they have a chance to match or get to keep that player at the minimum or almost the franchise tag. Now, if they use that and trade them away, they won't be able to reuse it this year. If they use that and re-sign him to a 3 or 4 year deal, however long that deal is, they're not allowed to use another transition tag inside the entire length of his contract. Now, the franchise tag is what we're most commonly used to seeing, is that will take the player's position and then pay them the highest paid. It's usually come out, they're not sure how much it'll cost, but usually it's around the league high minimum for that position. That's what you saw a few years ago. Kirk Cousins played 2 years on it. He was making almost $30 million guaranteed each year. Right. Now, all these players won't go on that transition tag or the franchise tag. You have until July, I believe, according to the league year, to finalize these deals. So this is all where basically the contract and negotiations start.
Yep.
And other franchise tags, Anthony Harris, the safety from Minnesota. Hunter Henry, the tight end out in L.A. for the Chargers. Derrick Henry, franchise tag. I don't think that was a surprise just because they re-signed him.
Everybody figured that was coming.
Right. You had Chris Jones, who I know a lot of Colts fans wanted the Colts to go after, but the Chiefs tagged him. Matthew Judon, I was a little surprised. I thought with the price, Baltimore usually doesn't bring back defensive guys unless your name's like Terrell Suggs or Ray Lewis or Ed Reed. He got franchised. Yannick Ngakoue, Jaguars defensive end, he got tagged. He is likely going to be traded. They're in a complete rebuild overhaul down there. He doesn't need to be paid $21 million a year. Dak Prescott got franchise tagged.
I think everybody's seen that coming.
I mean, that's just to do it for now, so that way he doesn't negotiate with anybody with the start of the free agency, and they'll get a deal done. Same with Justin Simmons, a safety for Denver, who's very underrated. We've talked about him. Brandon Scherf, the guard for Washington Redskins, was tagged. Another guard was tagged too, Joe Thuney for New England. So that's 2 guards in 1 year, and that rarely happens. I think Scherf was the first guard to be tagged since 2011.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, and then Leonard Williams, the Giants weren't able to get a deal done with the former top 10 pick. They franchised him to keep him on there. Out of all these, I think the first person that probably gets traded is Anthony Harris. I know Minnesota transition tagged him, but they want a mid to late round pick. So you want a starting caliber above average safety. I know Cleveland was looking at him. There's a lot of teams that have needs of safety. You can probably bring him in for a 3 to 4 year deal. You're looking anywhere from probably $9 to $11 million a year, which isn't bad. He's got to be my first that's going to be traded out of all this.
Right, yeah, I don't disagree at all. He's him or Ngakoue, like they'll be the highest sought after, because I don't see any of these other guys really being moved unless
I can see Brandon Scherf being moved just to see what they
maybe
can
they
get out of him.
get picks and stuff out of it because the Redskins are rebuilding. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to have some players, and he's one of, if not their best player on that team. So, I mean, you got to hang on to somebody.
Yeah, I was a little surprised with Kenyon Drake getting transition tagged. They obviously, we'll get into trades here in a second. They got rid of their starting running back for the last 3 years in David Johnson. But he fits in that offense of what Cliff Kingsbury wants to do. I also wouldn't be surprised, though, if A.J. Green got traded. I know that they franchise him. That gives him a center block, a solid number one receiver for Joe Burrow when they bring him in. But what do you think you can get out of him at this stage? Do you think he's 31, coming off a injury-riddled year, his first one in quite some time? But if you can get a second or third rounder out of him, that's an option too, because they should almost be in rebuild mode as well.
Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, Joe Burrow, he's the consensus number one overall pick. He stated he really wants him to keep A.J. Green, which why wouldn't you? You need somebody to throw to other than Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these play out. So we'll get into the trades next. We'll start off with the receiver too. I want to get your thoughts on these. Who do you think won them each time? We'll battle back and forth a little bit on this. The Bills yesterday sent their first, fifth, and sixth round picks this year to the Vikings for a seventh round pick and Stephon Diggs, which I was a little surprised. I know Stephon Diggs has made it very clear at times he's hard to deal with in Minnesota, but what wide receiver isn't? But this finally gives Josh Allen a number one receiver in Buffalo, which allows Cole Beasley to slide into that more traditional second or third role of receiver. And I think, what's the other one? Josh Brown that they have?
John Brown. And Cole Beasley.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Those two are better fitted as second or third options. Right. It gives you a solid... I like this trade for both sides. It allows Minnesota, because they're so strapped on the salary cap. I know that they restructured Kirk Cousins' deal that saved them $10 million this year. Getting Diggs off the books is going to save them money, but it also gives them 2 first-round picks this year to start messing around with, just to help build that roster.
Yeah, I like the trade for both teams as well, but it all blew up yesterday when Diggs tweeted out he needs a new beginning, or new beginnings are on the way, or something like that.
I'm assuming there was communication at some point that he voiced his displeasure with his. I mean, he's
been bitching since last season when they wasn't getting the ball, and then they're going in a different direction. They could obviously use 2 great receivers, but him and Thielen with the running game, they like to run the ball a lot, and they're giving the ball in space to Dalvin Cook even more. So touches are going down for their receivers. So
and they've still got Kyle Rudolph. They've got Irv Smith Jr., their second round pick, the former tight end out of Alabama.
Yeah.
Thielen, and then Cook, who is going into his last year of his contract if he can stay healthy. That's still a dynamic offense there. I just love this more for the Bills. I think right now, I know that's a lot they gave up for just a receiver, but he's an established receiver in this league. We know that. He's explosive as fuck. He is damn good with the ball in his hands. It's just, are the Bills okay with giving up their first rounder, which I think at this point you should be, because we know Tom Brady's out. The time is now for them to take over this division. Sam Darnold is now the longest tenured quarterback in the AFC East, which is unreal to think about.
And my thing with the Bills, though, they're one of those teams that's a couple pieces away, and this is one of those pieces.
Yeah, and we know the windows aren't big for most teams.
Right, and this is one of those pieces that get you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's a clear-cut number one. I know he's a great athlete. I like the Vikings. I think they got the better deal in this trade, but like you said earlier, Josh Allen needed a piece like this to get the Bills to...
Why wouldn't he be a number one option with over 1,000 yards each of the last 3 years?
Well, he's had Thielen on the other side. Rudolph's been a huge help. It's going to be... I mean, this is definitely going to see...
But Buffalo's going to have those pieces. They've got a good back in David Singletary. David Singletary. Right. They've got a better offensive line that's improving. Their defense is still elite. This gives him that option for Josh. I know he was last in the league, I think, last year, 59% completion. But he won't have to run for his life anymore or run the ball as much. He's going to have that downfield threat to open up this this entire offense.
I think it's just I've never been really a Stephon Diggs fan, but I do like to trade for both teams.
Yeah, I know. It must suck being you because you're not a good fan of good NFL players, being a Jets fan. All right, let's go on to the next one. I know we got a lot of Colts fans that listen to this. This came out of nowhere yesterday because I was even shocked. Chris Ballard has preached time and time again, you load up on the trenches. And boy, did he yesterday. The Colts sent their first round pick, 13th overall, to the 49ers for DeForest Buckner. Re-upped him, gave him a contract extension, and he's going to be making $21 million a year. He'll be the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league behind Aaron Donald, which Aaron Donald's in a league of his own in this league. I think he's the best player, pure talent. But I want to like it. It gives the Colts that dominant presence inside on that 3 technique. You know, you could have used that in your 13th overall pick, but you don't know if Derek Brown was there. Can he have that same potential? Do you know if Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina, or do they have
no idea if they're going to be all pros?
Yeah.
So
he was a second-team All-Pro, obviously behind Aaron Donald, but he is a mammoth up front. And yes, his sacks were down last year. I know everybody's going to look at the stats, but that defensive front for San Francisco was stout, and he still had the pressures there. But when you have D Ford and Bosa and Eric Armstead rushing off the edge, it's kind of hard to get all the sacks with what they did.
Right.
I like this from both ends because this allows the 49ers to free up some cap space because they were going to have to pay him. I know that he'd already taken a $2 million cut going in this year to save them cap space, but now this gives them some more room to work. Do you target another receiver for the 49ers, which is probably the first thing that comes to my mind right now? They're going to have, out of the 3, Judy, Lamb, or Ruggs. One of those 3 will be there.
Yeah.
Give Garoppolo some chances, but for the Colts, now we go into next year, you have that dominant presence inside. You've got 2 second-round picks that we're trying to figure out what Kimiko Toure and Tyquan Lewis are going to be about. Tyquan Lewis had a decent year. Snapped his ankle against the Chiefs. We've got to figure out what's going on from here. But for now, I like this. You know that instead of using that 13th pick, which is a lottery pick, basically, you've got an established all-pro D-tackle.
Now, I don't think any real fan of the game could bitch about this move. It
could end up being a bad move, but for now, this is nowhere close to what Grigson did, shipped off a first for fucking Trent Richardson.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you saw that writing on the wall at the end of his rookie year that he wasn't it. He was getting his snaps taken away in Cleveland, and we sent off a first for him. But I don't think this is anywhere close. I know some people are probably going to compare that, but for now, this looks like a decent option.
You're a dumbass if you can compare that.
All right. Well, here's another pick that kind of blew my mind. Not as much, but it was still a head scratcher. Atlanta lets Hooper walk in free agency. He goes to Cleveland. We'll get into that later. But then they turn around and send a 2nd and a 5th to the Ravens for a 4th and Hayden Hurst, the former first-round pick, who had lost playing time this past year, and he hadn't developed as much as they wanted. He's got the potential. He's got good hands. He's a decent blocker, a little better than Hooper. You don't know what you're getting here. Granted, he gets to go into that Atlanta offense. He's going to be their starting tight end next year. He's got a really good quarterback with Matt Ryan there, so it could work out. It's almost a head scratcher when you could have reworked some deals with your team and brought back Hooper, who was already proven to be a solid starting tight end in this league.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing, but Hayden Hurst isn't a bad player. I'm not going to sit here and pound the table saying you shouldn't have him, but that's, like you said, they could have reworked some deals and got Hooper back in the building, but I don't think they're losing too much here, I guess.
That
draft pick, I don't know.
I'm on the same boat as you guys. I like Hayden Hurst. I think he can be a starter in this league, but I think Atlanta just gave up way too much on him.
No, I get it. Time will tell with that one. Either way we look at this, these trades, have been, okay, we can go back and forth, I guess, for each team. Who won this deal? Was it fair? But this last one is another reason why...
Nobody can question this one.
Bill O'Brien doesn't need to be a GM in this league. I thought Gase was going to be the worst.
Oh, God.
O'Brien's now past him. You shipped off DeAndre fucking Hopkins.
Top 5 receiver.
And a 4th round pick, and all you got in return was David Johnson in a 2nd. David Johnson has been hurt the last few years. He hasn't done anything compared to when he lit the league on fire his rookie year when Bruce Arians was still his head coach. Stephon Diggs got a first, fifth, and sixth. DeAndre Hopkins got a second and broken down David Johnson.
Right.
In what world can you explain this to your fans, let alone Deshaun Watson, saying, hey, we'll figure this out?
In his tweet today, he was very disappointed.
As he would be.
It makes zero sense. Why would
if Will Fuller was even close to his potential with staying healthy, I would sort of get it. But no, not for just a second.
And if you got the Cardinals' first-round pick right there, maybe you're going to jump in there and redraft.
Yeah, if I'm the Cardinals, I'm not giving up over the 8th overall pick.
No, but
Hopkins is one of the best, if not the best, tight or wideout in this league.
I agree.
He is unreal.
Here's my thing, though. If you get that first-round pick from them and then go draft a Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb or whatever.
I like that.
And you're saying, I didn't want to give him or Hopkins a new contract. I would kind of be like, all right, I'm on the fence about it. But you're trading away a top 5 receiver in this league for a bag of fucking peanuts and a second round pick.
I wouldn't even go top 5. You've got, all right, so right now you're going to take what? You're probably going to take Julio, Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
It's those 3.
Devontae Adams is up there.
Yeah, but I still don't think he's on their level. Those are by far the 3 best receivers in this league. He is elite. He is on a Hall of Fame trajectory right now, and you just said, you know what? We can win without you. No, you can't. Will Fuller can't stay healthy. We'll get into who they signed today because it upset me.
I laughed.
You're not replacing him with who they signed today.
No, I don't.
But
the Cardinals just straight up butt fucked them.
Yeah.
I love what Cliff Kingsbury's doing.
And didn't give them a common courtesy reach around. It was that big of a fucking rip-off. Bill O'Brien should be fired.
Yeah, there's no way around this.
If it wasn't for the coronavirus, people would be out there in droves, pounding on the fucking door with his head on a stake by the end of tonight. That's how it would be. He would be dead in the streets of Houston. But
like when the report first came out, like the Cardinals got, or the
first report came out, and I saw it as like the Texans are interested in getting David Johnson.
Yeah,
I kind of get that. You know, he's got some injury history, and then it was like Ian Rappaport tweeted next, like DeAndre Hopkins involved in the trade. I was like, wait, what? Yeah. I figured there was going to be a future first, this year's second, and maybe a fourth and a fifth.
See, the first thing I seen,
okay with that.
The first thing I'd seen was Pro Football Talk reported that
fuck Florio.
No, I'm just saying, but he reported that the Texans were interested in taking offers for DeAndre Hopkins, and I tweeted, Hopkins, and I was like, well, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And then it turned out they fucking flipped him for
Could you imagine in like 2004, 2005 when Peyton Manning was just lighting the league on fire, if Polian was just like, you know what y'all gonna give me for Marvin Harrison?
Right.
I was 16 and I would have drove my little crappy car down to Lucas Oil, or they'd been in the RCA Dome or the Colts facility at that time, and just had a sign out front like screaming at them. Probably with a torch and a pitchfork.
That's how you'd probably get back with that trade if you swapped him out for Randy. I mean,
yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
But this is the dumbest trade.
I agreed. I mean, unbelievable.
Let's get into the signings.
All right, so I've jotted these down each time over the last 2 days when the tampering period started. We're going to just go by team on how I wrote it down. So we're going to start off with the Raiders. I really like the moves. I mean, Mayock, it's hard not to question anything he does. They signed Corey Littleton to 3 years, $36 million.
Best linebacker available.
Yeah, by far on the open market. $22 million guaranteed. They brought in Mariota. Gruden's loved him for a while. Mike Mayock loved him when he was coming out of Oregon.
That's a bad backup.
That's a good backup deal. Like at worst,
solid.
If Carr gets hurt, you've got a solid replacement to come in there for a game or two. Then they got Nick Kwiatkowski. He started 8 games for the Bears last year when they had some injuries around their linebacking core. He got 3 years, $21 million. You can question that a little bit, but in the 8 starts, he still had 76 tackles last year, 3 sacks, and a pick.
It's either bring him back or bring back the headhunter known as Fontes.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not bringing him back. They were kind of from the Bears. And then also, which surprised me a little bit today, they signed Jason Witten to a 1-year, $4 million deal. I don't mind this at all. It's a great locker room presence. You know, you're not asking him to be the starter because they got Darren Waller. He still can block at this age, and he's damn good in the red zone. Like, that's why I'm surprised the Cowboys didn't try to figure anything out for him.
And at $4 million, you would have figured they would have
Easy.
I think he can get up to like $6 million with incentives, but
I'm just saying the Cowboys, like, what are you doing? I mean, I guess you're wrong with Blake Jarwin. He's better than Witten at this point.
Yeah, but you also, I mean, he spent his whole entire career there.
Right, I get it.
He's a locker room presence. You know, Jerry Jones loves him.
But obviously,
he's a great teacher. That's why another reason why I think Gruden and Mack are like, yeah, come in, let's teach this young locker room, let's get the ship right. Which I'm kind of glad also to see them sticking with Carr because he's not terrible. He's not what he was 3 years ago, but he showed signs last year. He just had no one to throw to.
Yeah, let's put weapons around him.
We'll see what they do in the draft because it looks like they're shoring up the defense quite a bit here. I like the moves.
Then we got the Panthers. They signed Teddy Bridgewater to a 3-year, $60 million deal.
$63 million.
$63 million? All right. And then they also signed Justin Burris for a 2-year, $8 million. And they're looking to trade Cam Newton. There's a bunch of news about that. Just Cam Newton, or the Panthers put on their Twitter, we gave Cam Newton permission to seek a trade. And then Cam Newton just shit on their desk.
Yeah. That's just bad turmoil. He's won an MVP for you. He's taking you to the Super Bowl. He's had injuries last year, but you've also never once put a good receiver around the dude.
Yeah.
Like Calvin Benjamin had one good year, then decided to eat everything.
Well, then you had Steve Smith, and you got rid of him.
And he still went on to Baltimore and had a few good years.
Yeah.
I didn't have this written down because this only happened about an hour or two ago. They're bringing back Trey Boston on 3 years, $18 million. Love that.
That's a good move.
Great veteran in the secondary. You know he's going to be a starting or a safety for you for the next 3 years. Love that move.
I just wondered, with signing Teddy, everyone knows the news about them trying to take for Trevor Lawrence. Did they front load?
They're not going to take this. At this point, they're not taking for Trevor Lawrence. Here's what I think: they got Joe Brady as their offensive coordinator. He spent time with him when he was in New Orleans, when Joe Brady was. So he already knows all the play calls. He knows the verbiage, everything. He'll have to get with Matt Rule, but Brady's going to be calling these plays, right? They're not allowed to organize yet, and going to meet. And this coronavirus may push it off. You're already ahead of the curve there with Bridgewater. Clearly, Matt Rule and Joe Brady love him. Matt Rule's going to put all of his chips in here because if he gets Teddy Bridgewater to be a top 10 quarterback next year, dude's going to be a head coach by the time he's 31, 32 because I think he's only 29 or 30 right now. Yeah. We've already seen what he did with Joe Burrow. Now he's got a chance to do it with Bridgewater, who had subbed in for 5 games last year and played really, really well.
Yeah,
his last full year, he took Minnesota to the playoffs. He played well that year. We'll just see what they're putting everything in it. The only bad part is he's got Christian McCaffrey, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, DJ Moore, who looks like he's starting to blossom into a decent, pretty good wide receiver. That first round pick from 2 years ago.
Moving on, let's get to the Bears, who I think I even screenshot this today when the tweet came through.
Done.
Laughing my ass off. They just gave Robert Quinn 5 years and $70 million, and I want to say 48 of it's guaranteed. Then they turned around and released Leonard Floyd, who I know hasn't produced. He was a top 10 pick, and dude hasn't produced at all.
But I
don't hate Robert Quinn, but for 5 years for $70 million, $14 million a year, you got to be kidding me.
I would have kept Leonard Floyd.
No,
cheaper.
Robert Quinn's an upgrade there. They're putting their chips into the basket for that defense, but you needed to protect Trubisky, or if you're going to trade for Dalton or Nick Foles, you've got to protect them.
It looks like all their draft picks are going towards the offensive line.
That has to.
But they don't pick until, the third round?
Second round. They got 2 second-round picks.
Congrats. But you turn around and sign Jimmy Graham for 2 years, $16 million, thinking he's going to be a red zone weapon. He only had 8 receptions in the red zone the last 2 years in Green Bay when he had Aaron freaking Rodgers throwing to him.
And I don't know, some games Jimmy Graham is he looks like one of the best tight ends in the league, and then other games he can't catch a cold, and he's injured a lot. Jimmy Graham is injured a lot. I don't care what anybody says.
And you guys know I've been on this cock wagon with Trubisky here lately, but giving Jimmy Graham, okay, now you're just starting to. The only way you're going to be able to say this offseason is you got to go out and try at least trade for Cam now.
I still think go for Dalton, but that's just me.
I like that one too. Yeah,
I would like Cam Newton over Dalton if Cam Newton's healthy, but I don't.
That cold, I don't know. This is no slight against Cam Newton. I think he'd be better off going somewhere else. And if he's personally
maybe like LA or something,
the Chargers wouldn't be a bad option at this point. If Cam's healthy next year, I'm sorry, he's better to me than Teddy Bridgewater, bar none.
I think he's still a top 10 quarterback if he's super healthy.
If he's healthy, and it'll be weird because he goes to God, I keep saying San Diego. Los Angeles with the Chargers. He's got weapons. They're bringing back Hunter Henry. They've got Keenan Allen. They got Mike Williams.
Watch Jameis too.
And people forget. Yeah, people forget that Cam has a cannon of an arm. And he really hasn't had that option to throw 60, 70 yards downfield since he lost.
Since Ted Ginn. When Ted Ginn was there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to another division rival.
You got the Lions here. They signed Chase Daniels to a 3-year, $13 million deal. Mm-hmm. Great backup. Jamie Collins to a 3-year, $30 million deal. I like.
Can you read the next name? That's the best part.
No, go for it.
Halapaliavayada.
Yeah, that guy.
Vadiaya, who was a starting guard for the Eagles.
5 years, $50 million. I never was going to get that. And then you got Kevin Pierre-Louis, 1 year, $4 million. Lions, I mean, I don't hate what they're doing.
Pierre-Louis played for the Bears last year. He had 3 starts, but he's mostly been a special teams player. I like the deal. It's a 1 year. You've got a veteran it's a backup that's going to be good on special teams. Collins, I don't like this signing though for 3 years, $30 million. Are you getting the player that was fitting in the perfect defensive scheme system in New England?
But you've got
Matt Patricia there.
So he knows how to use
him. If he's close to what he was, it's decent. I don't remember what the guaranteed was.
I don't like the 3 year, $30 million. Maybe a 2 year, 15 or something. That'd been a great signing there, but
he would have just went back to the Patriots for that.
Yeah,
or Miami.
Yeah, but I mean. I do like that Chase Daniels signing. I'd rather have him than Jeff Driscoll. So,
that's. I love these backup quarterback deals. It's important because you are going to run into a time like Stafford got hurt this past year. They would have had Chase Daniel, who I'm not saying is going to light the league on fire, but it's more serviceable than they went out there with what? Purdue's old quarterback, David Blau.
Yeah. And
who had one good game because he threw it to Kenny Galladay twice, and Kenny Galladay scored twice because I benched him in fantasy that week and just sitting there watching the game like, oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The biggest spenders so far, we'll move on to them, is the Dolphins. A lot of moves here. We can go either way.
Couple head scratchers, but
yeah, that's what I'm going. I mean, you got Emmanuel Ogbah, the former second-round pick in 2016, who's never had more than 5.5 sacks in an entire season. 2 years, $15 million. Byron Jones now becomes the highest-paid corner in the league,
which is what you had to do to get him to come there.
Yeah, I mean this is what happens with free agency. You've got to pay this premium. Right. He's got 5 year, $82 million, 57 of it's guaranteed. They signed Eric Flowers,
Nick's favorite player.
3 year, $30 million. I'm going to come back to that. Camille Greiger, another special teams player, 1 year, $5 million. Kyle Van Noy, 4 years, $51 million with 30 guaranteed. Don't love that. Love this next one. Carl Lawson, 3 year, $36 million, and they're also reportedly chasing Jordan Howard. The deal hasn't been finalized yet, though.
2 year, $10 million.
Is that what?
Yeah.
I suppose, but
yeah. Which is
Schefter and Rappaport haven't confirmed that yet, so I'm staying away from it. Eric Flowers, bust. He had a better year because they threw him into guard last year over in Washington. He limited his holding and sacks allowed, but he is still not worth this. He is closer to a bust.
The man keeps getting paid.
Check out the memes on Twitter if you can about this guy. Look him up on Google. Redskins and Giants fans hate this guy.
Yeah, he can be your starter, but he's going to be average at best. And I know that's what he was going to command. They're hoping that last year was the start of, he can be an all-pro guard. Ain't going to happen.
Let's move on to the Eagles here. They signed Nate Sudfeld to a 1 year deal, and a move I really liked. It makes their defensive line one of the best in the league to me. Javon Hargraves, 3 years, $39 million. 26 guaranteed.
And they brought back Jalen Mills as well.
Right.
Love Javon Hargrave.
Yeah,
their defensive front
move.
Is going to be hard to block.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of beef on that D line with Fletcher Cox and
Cox is underrated.
Yeah.
No, I mean
he's a top 5 defensive tackle in the league for sure.
Yeah, and then I was looking today. Did they let one of their corners go?
No, let Malcolm Jacobs walk.
Yeah. So
their safety.
Yeah.
No
shit. They didn't exercise his option. He's now officially a free agent.
Well, they're moving Jalen Mills from corner to safety too.
I would jump on him if I'm a team that just needs a safety. Malcolm Jenkins, he's a good leader, man.
Cleveland, I'm not training for anything else. I might go.
I like that for anybody that needs safety.
Yeah, no,
great leader in the locker room and out. And
we'll see what they do in the draft because they'll still have to target receiver. They brought back Sudfeld, who got hurt last year. That's why you didn't see him starting. But I mean, former IU quarterback, he's had a couple solid preseasons. He looks like a good enough backup. Let's move on to the Bills, though. Their biggest signing that I love, they got 2 signings so far. They signed Mario Addison to shore up that defensive line.
I like that.
He's going to be a rotation player. Like we talked about him the other week on Free Agents for Me. I love him. He had 9.5 sacks last year for the Panthers, started 15 out of 16 games. You can rotate him in. He averages, for his career, I think in 8 years, he's averaging almost 7 sacks a season. He hasn't had less than 6.5 in 4 years.
Oh, 1 year prove it deal. I mean, hell.
I mean, that's all. I mean, at this stage, I think he's 31, but he's still a very, very solid player to bring in. And then they brought back Quentin Spain. They gave him 3 years. I didn't see the money exactly, but he started at 100% of their games last year at guard. Really good, low-key signing. Getting Josh Allen some more protection.
Yeah, you gotta be happy if you're a Bills fan with their offseason moves so far. Then we got the Cowboys. They paid Amari Cooper 5 years, $100 million. I mean, if you think he's number one, he's a number one. But if you think he's worth that, then hell yeah, man. Like, I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, we got some breaking news, though, since we've already covered the Raiders. They just agreed to a 3-year, $25 million deal, $17 million of a guarantee to sign Carl Nassib.
Oh,
so that's gonna.
I like that too.
He's not even gonna start, you would think, because you got Max Crosby and their 3rd overall pick or the 4th overall pick last year out of Clemson.
Farrell.
Yeah. So
unless you're moving him on the inside, but he's also going to play linebacker.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back to the Cowboys.
I mean, there wasn't much saying.
I mean, they brought back Sean Lee. Did you see that? He's got a 1 year, $4.5 million deal.
I like that.
Like I said last week on that Bring the Juice Colts podcast, I know some people, the Colts fans that listen to it, didn't like me because I said I'm not paying Amari Cooper because he wants to be paid like a top 5 receiver.
He just got paid like it.
Yeah, I know the 2 hosts, they were like, we didn't hear that. I remember hearing that last year when they were talking negotiations with an extension. He wanted it. He got it. He ain't worth it.
Agreed.
He turned down Washington, which I don't blame him for turning down Washington.
We talked about $60 to $7 million range. You know, that's perfectly fine. I would have been okay with the Colts doing that, but I would have not been okay with making him the 2nd highest paid receiver in terms of money per year behind only Julio Jones.
Yeah, he's not that, but
I mean, you had to keep him.
I think Cowboys overpaid.
All right, well, let's move on to your favorite team, who they're garbage anyway. The Jets, they signed George Fant, 3-year, $30 million. Highly questionable move. The only other one I like they did, they brought in center Connor McGovern over from Denver. He's going to solidify that offensive line. I know they're trying to protect Darnold here.
They also re-signed Alex Lewis, too.
Fant, though, 16 starts over his first 4 years. Questionable results at left tackle a few years ago. Then they used him basically as a tight end hybrid to block on 6-man packages. He had 4 starts last year, which were decent. But you're paying him like he's going to block Darnold's blind side, and it looks like Darnold's going to need to have eyes in the back of his head here. Yeah. This is very questionable. They didn't get Conklin. I get that. Other people have been franchised. You could have went another direction and just tried to go in the draft here. Maybe they'll move him to the right side, but for now it looks like they're trying to bring him in for the left side, and that terrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could say good about it is they're not overpaying anybody besides Fant. They didn't go crazy on Conklin. They were supposed to go after. I heard they were supposed to go after every freaking offensive line.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they tried, but I guess the only good thing that you can say if you're a Jets fan is they don't have too much money sunk into people that might not produce.
There are 3 offensive linemen that they signed so far. It averages around $9 million a year. So
that's not breaking the bank by any means, though, either.
Then we'll move to the shit show of the offseason so far. The Texans, they signed Randall Cobb to a 3-year, $27 million deal. If you think he's going to replace Hopkins, which I'm sure
he's not even going to be.
I'm sure they don't think that. It's not in their head.
You
don't. Jesus Christ,
55 receptions, 828 yards last year, and 3 touchdowns.
Right. It's just
Hopkins had over 1,000 yards. I think he only had 6 touchdowns.
As a Colts fan,
I'm happy because he teaches us every year.
Thank you for Bill O'Brien. Thank you. Thank you.
Cobb, that's the most yards he's had since, I want to say, 2015 when he was with Green Bay still.
He was always banged up, though, towards the end in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, he's not that dynamic receiver he was when he was paired up with Rodgers, but they also signed Eric Murray, 3 years, $20 million. I know they needed safety help, and I don't mind him. It's not the biggest deal, but he's never played a full season in 4 years. In coverage, as a safety, he allows over 65% completion percentage when targeted, and that's an average. He's just not it. Like, they could have went after. It just brings me back to why the fuck they let Tyrann Mathieu walk away. You downgraded again.
Right.
Just Bill O'Brien is a terrible GM, and maybe he's better off as an offensive coordinator. He did great with that. He was good at Penn State at recruiting. And
Texans' offense hasn't looked terrible at times.
No.
Like
and he's gotten the most out of his quarterback. Before he got Deshaun Watson, he got the most out of his quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson's looked great, actually. He shouldn't be a GM. Why is he making decisions?
Who gave a piece of the fucking Ferrari?
Obviously.
This is what happens. I'm not going to go that route, but
he's a head scratcher. We'll move on to the Ravens here. They signed Michael Brockers to a 3-year, $30 million deal. I don't hate this. I don't hate what the Ravens are doing so far. They traded for Calais Campbell
and Brockers. You've got 2 6'7" plus D tackles.
I mean,
Judon's tagged. That defensive line, Brockers and Calais Campbell are. I know Brockers played next to the best player in the game in Aaron Donald.
But he's playing next to another great one, too.
And his numbers aren't there. I think he only had like 20 pressures last year, 5.5 sacks, which was the most he's ever had in a season. I think he had that his rookie year. I think he only had 2 or 3 last year. He's still great against the run. You've got Judon and Calais Campbell to go after the quarterback now. I love this deal. It's not going to break the bank at 3 years, $30 million. I think only 16 of it's guaranteed, so the cap hit's not that bad. Perfect fit right there. I mean, they are loading up on that defense again. They can target offense in the draft. They should be just fine right now.
I think last week you were saying they needed to address the stopping the run. I think they sit here and just done it in the last couple of days.
I said they need to get after the quarterback. Their run defense was good. Getting after the quarterback, they struggled in sacks last year.
Either way.
Yeah. We can move on to the Giants, though. James Bradbury, corner from Carolina, signed there. 3 years, $45 million, $32 guaranteed. And then they got Blake Martinez, 3 years, $30 million.
Which isn't a bad deal for Blake Martinez.
No, I don't like it at all.
I think it's all right.
So what, you guys are going to look at his 155 tackles last year?
Did you
watch him in coverage? He was the worst coverage linebacker in the league. He allowed 83.5% completion percentage when targeted over 40 times. He was targeted over 40 times.
Huh?
He got so many tackles last year because we saw the NFC Championship game. Green Bay's defensive line is trash.
Right.
I mean, they had 183 yards before contact last year against the Packers. The 49ers did. I think that's too much for him. I think he's solid, but he's not great. Bradbury, though, if you get him from 2 years ago, he was one of the best corners in the game. He only allowed 1 touchdown last year, but he still gave up almost 60% of completion percentage when targeted. Still good, though. They needed a corner. They need all help at every position on that defense and almost all over on offense.
That's why they had to.
So I don't hate the Bradbury deal. Yeah. I mean, Blake Martinez, though, I'm not sold on. I would have rather than targeted an offensive lineman or another receiver.
They need them both.
Yeah, so... Move on to the Titans then?
Yeah, the Titans signed Dennis Kelly to a 3-year deal, $21 million. And then they got Vic Beasley on a decent deal, $1 million.
It's a prove it deal.
1 year, $9 million. So
I like both signings.
I mean, Dennis Kelly they're bringing in was their 6th utility offensive lineman last year. He's basically just going to come in and replace Conklin. I don't mind that. Beasley, 1 year, $9 million ain't going to affect you. See what he's got. You're going to go with the defensive-minded coach with... sorry. Oh, man. Go ahead, man. I got something.
And it's a good move for Beasley as well. You go in there and ball out. Maybe you can get paid.
Yeah.
Like in a good defensive scheme, a coach that's focused on defense, it could be good for both parties.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to get to.
Dan Quinn was the defense coordinator, but I think Vrabel's going to help him out a lot more, be more focused. I'm taking Vrabel over Dan Quinn any day. You guys are coach.
I don't exactly know that on the defensive side. I mean, he was fucking Legion of Booms.
Yeah,
defense,
and he got
of course.
Atlanta to a Super Bowl, so
I mean,
I don't know why you're shitting on Dan Quinn.
I mean, if anything, Vic Beasley needs to get off some fucking blocks and make some plays.
Yeah.
Like that's, but it's a good move. Like that's, you're not killing anything there with that move. Moving forward, if he sucks, you fucking you let him walk. Like
Right. No, I get it. Let's move on to the Broncos. They got, I think, my favorite offensive lineman. I mean, I raved about him. Was it last week or the week before?
I don't remember, but
Yeah, but Graham Glasgow can play at guard or center. Broncos locked him up 4 years, $44 million,
Good deal.
26 guaranteed. They've got a starting center for the next 4 years. I mean, he is really underrated. He is not going to be the best offensive lineman in the league, but you've solidified one spot on your offensive line for at least the next 4 years. You didn't overpay for him. I was surprised he got that much, but I love this move.
Then we got the Browns. They signed Case Keenum. He's a good backup for sure. If you're having him as a backup, I like it. 3 years, $18 million. It's a lot for a quality backup. It's not terrible, but then you got Jack Conklin, 3 years, $42 million. They need offensive line over anything on this team, so you're going to have to do that. And then, in my opinion, they went ahead and overpaid Austin Hooper. And
I don't think so.
I do.
I don't understand why.
I don't think he's that great, man.
Why? Why?
Well, I know Njoku can't stay healthy.
So, Stefanski, the Vikings offensive coordinator last year, who's their head coach, used the most 2 tight end sets in the league. Loves running 2 tight end sets. Hooper can block, and Njoku can block. Hooper had a 1% drop rate last year. Best among tight ends, top 5 in the league. It's just a perfect fit. I mean, he was targeted 97 times last year, had 1 drop. And I know he missed 3 games with the MCL sprain. Hooper is a perfect fit there. You're gonna get Baker more weapons. You can run the 2 tight end set. You've got 2 elite running backs now. You've got Kareem Hunt and Chubb. You've got...
Didn't they make him the top paid tight end in the league, though?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the market calls for,
I get it, but I don't like that. I don't think he's a top 3 or 5.
He had one good season.
No, he had more than one good season.
He's all right. I'm not saying he's garbage. I'm just saying I wouldn't pay him the top.
That's just what the market calls for. I get you might think that, but I think this is going to be a perfect fit for what Stefanski wants to do on offense.
Hopefully it is.
I think they're doing a tremendous job this offseason. So.
I mean, you got Conklin to shore up that right side, so that I think they're drafting 10th.
So they're probably going to get
that. You need to go get who's left between Becton and Wills and Wirfs, whoever's there. Get your left tackle.
Yeah.
Ideally, it'd probably be Wills or Becton at this point because Wirfs could end up transferring.
Hell,
to the right
even
side.
if you get a solid starter though, like get him.
Yeah, Baker needs time to throw. I know he struggled quite a bit last year. You'll have that. I mean, the Browns have been just turmoil, but you're gonna get the pieces now. It's a make or break year because if this year doesn't work, you're probably back into rebuild mode again.
That's for sure.
All right, we'll move on to the Bucks. We already know Tom Brady going there, $30 million.
We got the firecracker known as JPP.
2 years, $27 million. Don't mind them bringing him back. I mean,
no, I don't.
He's still got
for $27 million.
Not all of it's guaranteed, and it's over 2 years. You don't know what the signing bonus is. It might be front loaded this year to $10 million.
He had a fractured neck in a car accident,
and still came back. And I think he had 6 sacks this year. Like when he still comes back, I'm not.
Yeah, all firework jokes aside.
He picked you up, threw you to the ground, and sacked your quarterback and took it to the house.
No, I even said, like, you don't overpay him. You probably let him walk. But, like, this 2-year deal, like, you're still getting something out of him here, and you're not extending him past his prime. Like, he's on the tail end of it. We know that. But he's still, at worst, a hell of a rotational pass rush specialist.
You got to fill your defensive spots and if you can't let everybody go.
Right.
So they got to sign somebody.
That brings back Shaq Barrett too. We'll see if Ndamukong Suh wants to go back there, but
it just depends on what he's looking at on the open market, I guess. I mean,
he's going to probably get paid.
Yeah, but who's paying him? Like, are the Jets paying him?
I don't want.
San Francisco could bring him back on a 1-year short-term deal.
You mean LA?
No. San Francisco.
San Francisco's never played.
They're not bringing back, but signed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
With them losing DeForest Buckner.
He would be a great fit there.
He'll have his pick of where he wants to go.
Sue's a mean motherfucker, man. Like, he's a dirty player, but hey, you know what? Defensive linemen, they're Ric Flair. They're the dirtiest players in the game. So
it'll be interesting to see.
As long as you're not stomping on anybody's fucking legs or
Right.
heads or nothing, I'm cool with you.
Right. I'm more interested to see Tom Brady and Bruce Arians because Arians is not afraid to call people out in press conferences. So this should be an entertaining year if Brady goes out there and doesn't have anything with his arm left.
Yeah. I'm just really interested to see where Jameis goes now. Like, this is a big deal. Like, where does he fit? Does he go to LA? Does he accept a backup role
He might
somewhere?
have to.
Like,
I mean, that is another idea for Chicago, which I don't think is a good fit, but they want to bring someone in. They've already stated they want to bring someone in to compete for the starting job. And I'm sorry, if Jameis, Nick Foles, or Andy Dalton go in there, Trubisky done. He ain't going to beat him out.
You think Nick Foles can beat out Trubisky?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I'll take the other two, but I don't know.
I think 75% of the starters in the league, maybe 80, probably 80. If I wrote the names down, would outplay Mitchell Trubisky. I'm not fucking joking. I call him Trash Bisky for a reason because he's trash.
Bring back Brock Osweiler then.
I mean, I'm not going that far. But
All right, we're getting off track. 49ers. Ronald Blair brought him back on a 1-year deal. He had 3 sacks before he tore his ACL this past year. He was going to get a lot of interest from other teams. Another prove-it deal. They loved him up there. They also brought back Jimmy Ward.
Love it.
3-year, $28 million. Hasn't been healthy his entire career, but when playing, he's a serviceable starter. So
yeah, no arguments here.
Nothing crazy there. We know they restructured or did another deal with Eric Armstead. I think $81 million is what he got. Yeah, you knew you weren't going to be able to keep Buckner there. Cardinals, however,
after the fleece of the century, they signed Jordan Phillips to a 3-year deal.
Love it. Defensive tackle for the Bills last year, had 9.5 sacks, although it was a contract year, so he's never had more than 2 in his career. He only had 20 pressures, though. The biggest concern here is he's not a tackling D-tackle. He's there to eat space because he had 8 missed tackles last year, which put his rate at missed tackle percentage at over 20%, which was by far the highest among D-tackles, at least according to Pro Football Reference on the NFL last season among his position.
And the Redskins' biggest signing of the early part of free agency here so far is Kendall Fuller.
Oof.
We don't got the numbers on that sitting here. I don't know if you know him off the top of your head.
No,
Nick,
all I know is that the former Redskins draft pick, I think he was in the 5th or 6th round a few years ago. 77.8% completion percentage when targeted last year. Allowed 3 touchdowns. But they did also announce that they're bringing back Thomas Davis, so he's going to reunite with Ron Rivera.
I like Thomas Davis.
Another good veteran locker room presence. Don't know what those deals are. Let's get into some big spenders, though. You got the Jags, which I thought were in a complete rebuild. They turn around today and bring in Josh Schobert from Cleveland. That's 5-year, $53
I like
million.
Schobert, man.
Questionable in coverage, but I do like him.
I like him. He makes
And then
plays.
former first-round pick DeQuez Denard, who had a rough start to his career. I mean, it's hard for corners to come into this league and dominate. It's very rare. But he was a really good corner last year on a terrible Bengals team. He only allowed 1 touchdown. His target rate or quarterback rating when targeted was only at 74.5, which is below league average.
And between him and Kirkpatrick, you know, he's going to be the guy they target out of the 2 of those. I mean,
yeah,
he was getting thrown at a lot. So that's
we'll
all
get to the Bengals. I think the Bengals should have brought him back over who they signed, but we'll get into that later. I thought they were a complete rebuild. It looks like they're investing in the defense again. Congrats, I guess.
Yes.
But like,
hey, man.
you
got to go offense in the draft.
If they move Ngakoue, get some draft pieces.
They're going to have to.
They're probably going to get only a 2nd out of Ngakoue, which is fine.
I mean, maybe you can get like a 2nd and a 5th. I don't know.
I just think you're wasting money on a better middle linebacker there to lead your defense when you have no identity yet.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew, aka Uncle Rico, he might be the answer, but he struggled. You're clearly done with Nick Foles. You're trying to
Nobody
trade him.
There's not going to be many teams that would trade for him.
Yeah, I mean the Bears might be stupid enough.
I don't know. Then we move on to the Seahawks. They signed Jaron Reed, 2-year deal, $23 million.
He was hurt last year, but in 2018 he had 10.5 sacks and 31 pressures. So you needed pass rushing help. They struggled last year with Javon Clowney. I like it. Vikings. We know they traded away. They're one of their better offensive weapons, but they extended Kirk Cousins 2 years, $66 million. A lot of it's going to be front loaded this year.
I was wondering what they're going to do.
Yeah. I mean, I like this move. It creates $10 million on the cap space for them this year. I mean,
well, they also cut Lovell Joseph and Xavier Rhodes as well. To free up a shit ton of cap.
They let Trey Waynes walk as well.
I like Lovell Joseph.
The Bengals.
Man. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the move here. If you think Cousins is your answer, which he had a great year last year, you roll with it. I mean, it's hard enough to find a quality starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and argue about Cousins being their best option right now.
Yeah,
because I wasn't a fan of hardly any of these free agent quarterbacks.
Okay, let's move on to the next one then.
Yeah, I'll get there. Oh, I got this.
You got this.
The Colts signed Phillip Rivers, 1 year, $25 million. And now that I know it's 1 year, I'm
okay with that.
I'm not as upset as, because even if it had been a 2-year deal, they could have still got out from under the contract. But all I'm saying is everybody can say whatever they want, but I don't think he is much better than Jacoby Brissett.
He's better than Brissett.
I'm not saying he isn't better. I'm saying he isn't much better. And now you got to trade Jacoby. You have to, because you're sitting there with 2 mediocre quarterbacks getting paid too much.
Yes and no. I mean, they're both off the books at the end of this year. If Rivers comes back and has a great year like he did 2 years ago, you can re-up him again. And he says he hopes that's the case.
But the money you could save, like, use somewhere else, you don't keep both of them.
We'll see what free agency isn't over. They're going to still make some more moves. They could, trade some stuff, flip around. But we know that Frank Reich likes to get the ball down the field. We know he loves his screen game and everything else, but he still wants to get the ball downfield more.
He must love turnovers.
Jacoby Brissett, 6.6 yards per attempt, like air yards last year, was 30th in the league. Rivers was 11th at 7.8.
Right.
Here's what, Rivers didn't have the best offensive line in San Diego. He only had 2.5 seconds a time before being hit or pressured last year. Now, that's not much better than what Brissett had, but Rivers has a better pocket presence at this, even though he's 38.
He got far better weapons in fucking LA, though.
Yeah. My biggest thing is we want to run the ball too. Reich said that. Ballard said that.
And they should. Mac had a great year last year.
In play action scenarios last year, Jacoby Brissett would only get 6.5 yards per completion on play action. Rivers 9.1, and I'm sorry, we've got a better offensive line. We'll have a better run game, even though I know we like Eckler and Melvin Gordon out there. It took a while for that to get going, and
right. I mean, he didn't come into camp, so that their
offensive line wasn't that. But no, Rivers was hella good in play. I mean, 9.1, I think, was top 8 in the league.
My thing is you're moving sideways. I feel like if you get Rivers, he's never won really big games. He's 5-6 all time in the playoffs. He's 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions in those playoff games. He's 59.44 completion percentage in those games. I'm not saying he's not good, and he was elite at one time, but I feel like he's washed up. And I feel like he's a turnover machine at this point in his career. And I feel like he doesn't win big games. And people will say, people will sit here and say the big games that he lost are against Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Hall of Famers. But did you win them? That's all. I mean, Joe Flacco beat Tom Brady and fucking Peyton Manning on the way. Now, it was a fluke, but Joe Flacco still had a run
twice and beat him in the playoffs.
Right.
So.
But Rivers also lost to Mark Sanchez.
And so did Peyton Manning.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I love this deal because I don't, but it's only 1 year. It's still a complete upgrade over Brissett. I wasn't sold on him. I didn't want this signing to begin with, but 1 year, $25 million. It's a prove-it deal. They're betting that he's closer to his 2018 numbers when it was 32 touchdowns, only 13 interceptions. You've got to get him help now. So here's my thoughts on this. With their second pick, the 34th overall pick, they've got to go receiver there, whether it be Denzel Mims, Brandon Ayuk, Peoples-Jones, Laviska Shenault. You've got the TCU receiver whose the name's coming to mind.
Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor. You've got to get him help there. You're hoping that your second-round pick last year, Paris Campbell, comes back and can perform at something because he was hurt almost all year and didn't do anything when he was on the field. I know he had a touchdown. Hilton's got to stay healthy, but you'll get him help there. And then probably I think it's the 44th or 54th overall selection for their next pick. You're more than likely going there.
It's 44th.
Is it 44th? You're looking at Jake Fromm or Jacob Eason. You're looking at a long-term replacement.
If Jacob Eason doesn't get drafted by the Patriots.
Yeah. So you've got the issues there, but that's what I think they're going to have to do now because starting now, you've got the same offensive line coming back. You've got to get receiver help for Rivers. You've got to be able to maximize his potential.
They just went, in my opinion, they went from the 24th best quarterback to the 20th best
Would
quarterback.
you guys rather have Brady?
No.
I'd rather have neither.
I mean, I'd rather have neither, but if I'm going to pick between the two, I know
If I'm picking between two, I'm picking Phillip Rivers. He's younger.
Younger's not everything. Rivers.
I mean, when you're 43, to me, it is, though. Like,
he was pressured quite a bit. He threw, I think, 11 of those interceptions of the 21 he threw last year were when he was being hit. So, I mean, you can get better.
I'm not saying he can't do well here. I don't think this helps us move anywhere close to being a contender. I don't think we're a contender at all.
Like I said earlier on my pick.
I think this moves us closer, the Colts closer to competing for the AFC South than it did.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Texans just been...
If that's the goal.
The Texans still have Deshaun Watson. They're still going to be good.
I think the Colts jump.
Titans are still going to be good.
I think it's Titans, Colts, then Texans.
Deshaun Watson, though, if he takes another step forward.
They're going to have to find someone. They didn't have a first-round pick. Texans, I don't think they do.
No, they don't.
Oh, they're fucked.
I wouldn't say they're fucked. They still have an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, that can mask a lot of problems.
Yeah,
I remember Peyton Manning throwing to Blair White.
And Randall Cobb.
Fuller. I mean, they don't have the worst receiving crew in the league. It's just
if Fuller can stay healthy,
they lost
then it'll be
Hopkins.
okay. But I just don't see him staying healthy.
I don't like the move.
All right, we just got 3 teams left. The Packers, they let Brian Bulaga leave, their right tackle for years. They brought in Rick Wagner to replace him. Injury-prone history up there in Detroit. Not a bad place. Then Bulaga turns around and leaves and goes to the Chargers, which helps them.
Black move for the Chargers.
I mean, he's
He got $30 million, but
he's still solid enough.
yeah, I mean,
Is that a 2-3 year deal?
3-year deal.
3-year deal.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. And the Bengals had 2 signings today. They brought in DJ Reader, who I thought was the best D tackle on the open market. 4-year, $53 million. He's going to eat space in there, which. My point comes up from last week. It's time to trade him.
Yeah,
let Geno Atkins walk. Or don't let him walk, but get something out of him when you can. And I'm not saying it's because he's washed up, because by no means is he. He made the Pro Bowl last year. He is a hell of a player
He's just
still.
in rebuild mode.
Yeah, just get something for him. And then they signed Trey Waynes from Minnesota, cornerback. I want to say he got $42 million. He looks good at times, but then at times he's also completely lost on that field. I don't hate it, but I feel like you should have brought back Darqueze Dennard instead.
Yep.
So that's all we've got for now. Obviously, next week we are going to go over more recap because we still have another week of the franchise or of the free agency. We'll have some more trades, but for now, that's all we've got. I mean, we're barely 24 hours into this thing. So
let's get it kicked into our newest segment.
Hell yeah, let's get it.
A little bit of Would You Rather. Set the mood for us, Travis.
Oh yeah, it's that time of week again where we throw out 2 blind stat lines and let you pick the player you would rather start. Would you rather?
All right, let's get right into this. This first one and the second one are kind of linked together, guys. Okay. So we're going to start off with player A in our first Would You Rather segment. Drop percentage for player A is 6.4% of his passes when he's been targeted and had his hands on, he drops. His catch percentage of when being targeted is 67%. 75 yards per game. 17.9 yards per catch. And then he played 76% of the team snaps last year, okay? Player B, his drop rate's only at 2.7%. About the same catch percentage, 69.3. A little more yards per game at 78. Yards per catch, though, is 11.2, but he played 91% of the snaps last year.
Player B for me.
I would be B.
Okay. So you guys are gonna go with B for the first one?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna hold there, and I'll reveal these after this next one. So player A, the next one, these are running backs. 4.4 yards per carry, average 2.3 yards after contact. Every time they were hit, they averaged another almost 2.5 yards. And then every 4.5% of their touches came for a first down, which is a lot for a running back. Remember, this includes receptions too. So player B, 3.7 yards per carry, yards after contact only 1.8, and then 3.5% first down carry percentage.
I mean, I don't think either one of us can argue on this. If we're just looking at these stats, it has to be player A.
Player A by far.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
player A,
Has to be.
player A on the second one, player B still on the first one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good, because luckily you're not Bill O'Brien, because player A in the first one's Stephon Diggs, second one's DeAndre Hopkins, right?
It's not like,
and
it's
DeAndre
not,
Hopkins just got a first round pick
and
for him.
it's not like he traded DeAndre Hopkins for Stephon Diggs.
Now the second one here, the Texans are letting Carlos Hyde walk. They haven't had any interest in bringing him back. And then the second player, who you guys took Carlos Hyde in player A. Player B was David Johnson.
And if I knew the names, I would pick David Johnson.
That's what I figured you guys both would.
Just for potential. And
But you know what you're getting with Carlos Hyde.
But
Carlos Hyde is definitely. It's good to see him refresh his career in Houston this year.
Yeah.
But lack of not.
But I'm taking David Johnson, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I know David Johnson's career.
And that was a down year for Hopkins technically. Like 2.7 drop percentage is the highest in his career.
Right, and you got to think he's not their big ass deep threat. He's their, they got Fuller for that. They got other.
I mean,
receivers.
Hopkins can still take off over the top, but he's commanding double coverage whoever they play because Fuller didn't play every game.
And he's also the guy.
Your game plan to stop
first down, and third down. Like
Kyler Murray is going to have an amazing year this year.
And he's got Larry Fitzgerald.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
Andy Isabella starting to come in.
As long as
they can still get another receiver in the second round.
As long as they get some sort of offensive line in front of him, they're going to be fucking really scary on offense.
Yeah.
I fully expect to see a lot of 4 and 5 wide receiver sets in Arizona this year, and I'm going to love every second of it. All right, let's get on to the next one. So we're going to switch to quarterbacks, all right? Player A's got to win throwing to receivers. His receivers drop the ball 5.3% of the time. His completion percentage last year, 67.9. 5.1% of his passes went for touchdowns. His interception rate's a little high at 2.8%, which isn't that high. It's about, good enough for around middle of the pack in the NFL. And then total yards per game is 276 yards per game. So I factored in rushing and running, okay? Or rushing and passing, not rushing and running. Player B, when throwing to his receivers, they drop the ball 8.3% of the time, which is actually really high. So he didn't get a lot of help there. His completion percentage, 67.9, so the same as player A. His touchdown percentage was only 4.6%. Interception rate, though, was really, really good at 1%. Only 156 yards per game, though.
This feels like Jacoby Brissett or something to me.
It's not.
That's actually player B. That was B. But I'm going to go with player A.
You're going to go with player A?
I know his interception percentage is higher, but it's
2.8% is not that bad.
I don't really have much of a choice here with the total yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so both of you then, if you're the coach in Carolina, you guys are electing to stick with Cam Newton and not bring in Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, granted, this was 2018 stats for Cam Newton. I pulled those because I'm not pulling a game and a half from this year.
I mean, that's not a big enough.
But it's just Newton isn't a bad player, and it's nothing against Teddy Bridgewater. I'm rolling with Newton for another year. If
The
it doesn't work out,
bigger with Cam Newton. The ceiling's higher with Cam Newton.
and if it doesn't work out, you're already tanking for Lawrence at that point.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I mean, I get it for Joe Brady and Matt Rule. You want your quarterback, but when's the last time a free agent quarterback changed your franchise?
Peyton Manning.
And before that, you're looking at Drew Brees.
Yeah.
2 of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time.
Right.
That's not Bridgewater.
Maybe Brett Favre you could throw in there too.
Yeah, I'll throw Favre in there.
He ended up going to Minnesota, but he didn't do shit for the Jets.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, him.
Yeah, he sent a lot of dick pics is what he did for the Jets.
But if we're getting into that, like him not fucking sitting out with that injury cost them a lot of games down the stretch.
It cost us a lot.
But that's nobody cares about the Jets.
Yeah.
So here we go.
All right, you guys ready for the last one?
Yeah.
All right, we're going defense. All right. Player A had 3 missed tackles last year, so 4.6% of the time that he was wrapped up with someone or within the box is what Pro Football Reference does. He had 34 pressures on the quarterback, so you guys know that includes sacks, quarterback hits, and hurries. 62 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 4 fumble recoveries. Player B, 6 missed tackles, a little high, 11.1% missed tackle percentage. 55 pressures, though, 48 tackles, 20 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery.
Player A, all day.
So I'm taking player B, but there's a reason. There's a reason why.
I know he had more quarterback pressures, and that's why his percentage was probably high on the missed tackles. Obviously, he was getting the backfield a lot more than player A's, but I don't know.
I mean, from the numbers that are in front of me, I'm taking player A. But
Yeah.
All right, player B is Aaron Donald.
Fuck.
So you're taking him all day.
Right.
I didn't include double teams pressure. I mean, that would have always been high. I'm just doing this mostly, I guess, for Colts fans. Because player A is DeForest Buckner. You are getting probably the second best D tackle in the league.
Yeah.
Top 5 for sure.
And like you said, you didn't put in double teams there,
Or triple teams.
a lot of his
Donald
missed tackles
gets double
probably came
teams.
with,
ESPN came out with the stat. Aaron Donald, I think, gets double teamed 78% of the time.
Yeah.
But he breaks those within a second and a half, 49%. No one's on another level. Now, I could have put everything else. If I put more stats in there, it's going to show you Aaron Donald. I just wanted to give you a snippet of what Colts fans should be expecting from Buckner. You're going to get a solid mammoth of a human being up front that is going to wreak havoc. You're going to have a great player coming. I get you're paying him $21 million. That's not ideal. I'm still okay with it because we had the move or the cap space. I like this signing.
It's an A+ trade. An A++ trade for the Colts.
I wouldn't say A++, but I would give it probably a B+, A-. It's a good trade, and you are getting a great player. I know a lot of people haven't heard of him. He's a former top 10 pick. It brings you to think like he's not far off from Darnold. He's never going to get to that level. I don't mean it like that, I guess.
Right.
It's just he is a really, really good player.
If I'm the 49ers, I would have got rid of Armstead instead of Buckner. That's just me.
No, I would have probably kept Eric Armstead. You can D tackles. I mean, are still a luxury. You can find like someone like Sue this year to come in for a year.
True.
You've got 3 elite pass rushers. That's really hard to find for the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm good with Buckner being a Colt.
I am. I thought that was it.
Colts fans are gonna love him.
Yeah, we're good there. All right, so that was another episode of Would You Rather. I think they're getting a little better, but I mean, it creates talking, if anything.
Right.
All right, let's get on to our last segment,
Crack
though.
that boy up and
let's
crack that
open
six-pack up.
Hell yeah.
This is the Six Pack of the Week.
All right, with the first one, how many times has there been 0 penalties in an NFL game?
What is wrong with you with these questions, dude?
I got to come up with something every week, so.
No, I get it. But
Answer it.
6?
4. Who's the all-time leading scorer in Colts history?
The all-time leading scorer in Colts history. Finney? Did he pass Peyton?
It's Vanderjagt.
Is it Vanderjagt?
Yep, 995 points. What is the most combined points scored in an NFL game?
Shit. Oh, man. 96. I mean, I'm not...
113, Redskins and Giants. How many quarterbacks have thrown 7 touchdowns in a game?
3.
8.
Okay.
How many running backs have rushed for 2,000 yards in a season?
Okay, so you got Jamal Lewis, Eric Dickerson, Chris Johnson, Adrian Peterson, Barry Sanders, and I'm probably missing. I said Jamal Lewis, right, at Baltimore.
Yep.
Corey Dillon, did he hit 2,000 with the Bengals? There's 6. I'm gonna go ahead and say 7, just to give myself some leeway.
It's 7. I don't know all of them, but it's 7.
I think those all.
Well, I don't know about Corey Dillon for sure, but
the other ones I know for a fact.
O.J. Simpson.
Okay.
He was the first one to ever do it.
Okay.
Who was the last non-quarterback to win the NFL MVP award?
Adrian Peterson.
Boom, baby.
The year Peyton should have won it. Peyton got comeback player of the year. But Adrian almost broke the record.
He ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he was, 8 yards shy of Dickerson's record? Yeah, I mean, man, some of those, like, the penalty, man. Come on, dude.
Hey, dude, I got to come up with something different.
I get that, but, like, how many times? Okay, that's fine. You do whatever you want.
Thanks for listening to us, guys, this week. I hope you stay safe from the coronavirus. Keep your family close.
Remember, you can follow us on almost any podcasting platform. Be sure to drop us a review and 5 stars if you have that option. Next week, I think we're going to reveal our mock draft. Well, for sure we are.
We'll cover some more free agency signings.
We'll do a quick recap. And then, if not next week, very soon, we're going to rank our top players at every position in the draft. And then, more than likely, once free agency is set out and then the draft is over, we'll hit up our first power rankings. Those won't be 2 separate things. We'll agree on everything. We'll probably do like a voting system depending on where you have them and everything. So other than that, thanks for listening to us. Make sure you drop us a review or a quick comment under anywhere you can see us. But
give us some questions of the week next week, you assholes.
Yeah, on Facebook and Twitter. All right, thanks for having us. Have a good week, everybody.